Hi, my name is Emily, and if you are booked on EF Ultimate Break's Ultimate Europe trip or you're thinking about booking it, this is the video for you because this is the Ultimate Europe video. Roll the tapes. Before we begin, I have to let you know that if this is your first trip with EF Ultimate Break, you can use the link in the description to book your trip and it will automatically activate and apply the code UAEmilya100 for $100 off your trip on top of sale prices. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. If you are anything like me, I had wanted to backpack Europe since I was like 17 years old. And I planned a whole trip, and then of course it fell through. None of my friends could go. I was the only one that could go, and I didn't really feel safe going alone. And I'm also kind of like not wanting to do this whole backpacking thing for that long on my own. So that is when I found this trip with EF Ultimate Break. It goes to 14 different like iconic cities all over Europe, and it is arguably one of the best decisions I've ever made. I went in June of 2023, so this past summer, and I absolutely loved it. So let's go over where it goes. You start in Barcelona, then you head to Paris. From Paris, you head to London. From London, you head to Amsterdam. From Amsterdam, you head to Prague. From Prague, you head to Munich. From Munich, you head to the Swiss Alps. From the Swiss Alps, you go to Venice, then Florence, then Rome. Then you go to Athens, and then you go to the island of Paros. And you do have to stop in a couple of other smaller places to stay the night along the way. I'm not mentioning those because they're not really like super recognizable places, but you also stop at many different smaller European cities as you're traveling. So it is really a great way to see a good amount of Europe. You're going to be gone for 5 weeks. You're going to stop in so many different places. You're going to be in 9 different countries. So let's talk about what comes with the trip. What does EF Ultimate Break plan for you? So round trip flights to and from the States come with your trip. So your flight from wherever you are to Barcelona and then from Athens back home. With that also comes round trip transportation to and from the airport. So when you arrive in Barcelona, they will make sure you get to your first accommodation. And then when you are leaving Athens, they'll make sure you get from your accommodation to the airport. Speaking of, your accommodations are also included. So whether you are staying in hostels or hotels, and we'll get into the difference of that later. Your transportation from city to city, so whether or not you are taking a bus, a ferry, a plane, or a train, how you're getting from city to city is included. Breakfast every day, a welcome dinner and a farewell dinner, an expert tour director that's there with you the whole 35 days, local guides in each city that are going to take you around and give you a guided tour, and for the most part, public transportation within each city. So if you are booked on this trip, or when you do book this trip, you're probably really anxious and you're like, well, what do I do now? Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you download the EF Ultimate Break app. Make sure that your passport is in order because you are definitely going to need that to go on this trip. Make sure that your passport does not expire within 6 months. Within 6 months of taking this trip. Sometimes countries won't let you in and you do need your passport a lot. So just make sure that you got that taken care of. Read the Know Before You Go guide on the EF Ultimate Break website. Make sure you enter your passport info into the EF Ultimate Break website. Add any roommates, any excursions you want to add on. Add yourself to the Facebook group so you can ask people questions if you have them, and just hang tight. You will get your flights and your accommodations 30 days before the trip. This is also where you'll find out who your tour director is, and your tour director will give you loads of information before you go, probably put you in a group chat. So just keep an eye out on your email to watch for communication from your tour director. But again, don't expect anything until about 30 days out. When you arrive in Barcelona, your tour director will probably be meeting you. Your tour director will give you info on your transfer and where to meet. If you have booked your own flights, you're responsible for getting yourself from the airport to your first accommodation. So let's talk about accommodations. There are two different types of trips. When I took my trip, this was never an option, but you are given the option between essential and plus. Each date will have a little essential or plus next to it. Essential is the true like backpacker experience. You are going to be staying in hostels or low budget hotels, and you will have multiple roommates. Your roommates will only be people from your tour group. You won't be staying with randoms. I mean, yes, the people from your tour group you might not know, but it will be people from your tour group. If you choose the plus option, you will be staying with one roommate the whole time, and you will only be staying in hotels. Now, they're not going to be like the Ritz, but you will be staying in hotels the whole time, and you do have some extra meals that are included on the plus trip. The difference is quite costly. The plus trip, I've noticed for this particular trip, costs quite more than the essential, and that's because it is such a long trip, so that definitely makes sense. For me, it's worth it to do the essential only because we only stayed in hostels about 60% of the time. The other 40% of the time were actually hotels. I actually really loved some of our hostels and hotels. They were really, really nice. It's a great way to make friends on the trip. So if you're kind of willing to sacrifice your comfort just a little bit, I would go for the essential. If you are traveling with a partner or like a bestie and you just want it to be the two of you and you like are like, I have to have a hotel, then choose the plus. Now, when it comes to the accommodations that I stayed at on my essential trip, I don't feel like I should tell you what they were, only because it varies so greatly trip to trip from availability and when you're leaving. But I will leave a list in the description of this video of accommodations that EF has used in the past. There is a document. It was not made by me. It is absolutely wonderful though, and it contains a list of all of the accommodations that we know of that EF has used. As soon as I got my accommodations 30 days out, I Googled every single accommodation to see if they had laundry, to see if there was an elevator, to kind of prepare myself for what I was getting into. And so you can do the same. Let's talk about what to pack, because everyone asks me, what should I pack for this trip? Okay, now in the Know Before You Go guide, they do have a little bit of a packing list of things that you might want to bring, and I'm going to add some things to that. First and foremost, you are going to want to have a multi-country adapter. The plugs are different in Europe, and they are even different in the UK than they are the rest of Europe. You can just Google them, find them on Amazon. I like Pika, but as long as you have one that fits like multiple different countries, you are good to go. You should also bring a portable fan. Even if you're staying in hotels in Europe, their air conditioning standards are just not the same. I have a little mini fan that turns into a stand that I brought with me. It is very powerful. It is absolutely wonderful. I will leave it linked below. I highly recommend that you bring a fan, if not just to have with you walking around. I recommend having a crossbody bag. If you are a purse carrier, you definitely want to be able to hang on to something to prevent yourself from getting pickpocketed. So I recommend a crossbody. I had a Lululemon bag. I know that this like kind of pointed me out as a tourist, but it was kind of obvious that I was a tourist anyway. So as long as I could have something close to my body so that if a pickpocket did try to come, I could like quickly grab it, or I could just have my hands on it in the subway. Also gonna want to have a portable charger, like for sure, because you are going to be using your phone a ton and you're gonna want to save battery, and yeah, our phones were always dying. So make sure that you have a portable charger that's charged and ready to go every single day, that you always have on you. Because the last thing you want to do is get stranded in a foreign country with a dead phone. I always bring microfiber towels. The big microfiber towels, they are excellent for the beach. The hostel towels and even hotel towels I find are just so subpar. So I like to bring really big microfiber towels. They dry you off really fast. They dry things off really fast. They are like sand repellent. They are excellent. I brought two and they are super compact. I personally brought a lightweight linen robe just because I was staying in rooms with multiple girls, and sometimes in like two of the hostels, I actually had to go outside of my room to shower. So if you're one of those people that doesn't like to change like as soon as you get out of the shower and are like sticky, I would recommend bringing a robe so that you don't have to just like chill in a towel with your roommates. It made me feel really comfortable, and I'm sure it made my roommates feel a lot more comfortable. You are going to want dual voltage hair tools. So if you are gonna curl your hair, dry your hair, straighten your hair, I recommend having dual voltage tools. I'm not sure how it works, but the voltage is different in Europe. So if you plug your hair tools in without a converter, even with a voltage converter, sometimes they blow up. My hair dryer started smoking. I've lost many hair tools to European voltage. So I have invested in a series of dual voltage styling tools, and it was worth it for me for 5 weeks in Europe. But I don't know, like if you're going to be traveling a lot, I think it's worth the investment. I also made sure that they were mini so that they didn't take up a lot of space. Just look for a little sign that says dual voltage and you should be good to go. The last thing I would highly suggest is medicine. I got sick while I was on this trip, and I could not find the specific medicine that I needed pretty much anywhere. So I would recommend bringing, you know, your Tums, ibuprofen, cold medicine, things that are just basic over the counter that could really help you. There are pharmacies like all over Europe. You can walk in, you can get what you need for sure, but I would just recommend having cold medicine because Europeans do not treat colds the same way that we do. And so we are definitely like more into pharmaceuticals here to help ease our burdens. So I don't know, just definitely look into bringing some cold medicine and bringing enough cold medicine that's going to last you for like a couple of weeks, because European sicknesses are no joke. So for clothes, as far as packing clothes goes, I did a lot of things that you could mix and match. I brought bodysuits. I brought a lot of linen. So linen pants, a linen skirt. I even brought a linen like shirt, button-up shirt, just plain white, as my like jacket most nights, because it wasn't like cool enough for a jacket, but it was nice to just be able to throw that on. I had a lot of basics like plain tank tops that I could mix and match, plain bodysuits that I could mix and match. I also brought a couple going out outfits, and then some really comfy clothes that I could wear because we were traveling a ton. As far as shoes go, I brought a comfortable pair of white sneakers that I could walk a ton in. I brought a pair of just plain like platform sandal wedges for going out and for wearing with my dresses that were also comfortable to walk in. And then I also brought a pair of sandals for the beach and for showers in hostels. I brought a lot of sundresses as well, and I brought biker shorts to wear underneath the sundresses so that I wouldn't chafe. You're also going to want to make sure that you bring a bathing suit. I brought enough clothes to last me for about 2 weeks, and then I just did laundry throughout my trip. When it comes to carry-on versus checked, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. EF Ultimate Break makes it so easy to travel that it didn't matter. There were really no times where I was dragging my suitcase through a city or upstairs. It was really easy. I had a 50-pound checked bag and I never had an issue. I also had a backpack. Some people just had a checked bag. Some people had a carry-on and a checked bag. So it really depends on kind of what you can handle. But I promise you, my checked bag was not an issue. I know that some people will say differently, but that is not how I felt at all. I can really only think of 2 times where I was kind of like dragging it a little bit, like through a city, in Amsterdam and in Florence, because it's super hard to get to their city centers on a bus. But I will say that in those situations, I would have been equally as annoyed if I did have a rolling carry-on. And it depends. Do you want to roll your suitcase through a city, or do you want to carry it on your back? So I don't know. I just found it really easy to have a checked bag. It was not an issue very many times. So I think that it was well worth it. I also did bring a small collapsible duffel bag to bring back souvenirs or anything that I picked up, just in case I had any kind of like overage, and that was my carry-on on the way back. So I highly recommend doing that. So from transportation, for the most part, you are going to be transported from city to city by bus. And is it the quickest way to get from city to city in Europe? No, absolutely not. Is it the most convenient with a large group? Yes, because let me tell you, a bus is going to pick you up right at your hotel and drop you right off at your next one. Even if you are taking a train, which in some cases you do, or a ferry or a flight or anything like that, a bus is going to pick you up and take you to where you need to go, which is really nice. I really enjoyed our bus trips because it gave me time to sleep, to watch shows, catch up on reading, to look out the window. We stopped in a lot of cool little European cities as we were going through, so I felt like I saw a lot more of Europe than I would if I was just taking planes or bullet trains everywhere. I really loved stopping at the gas stations to try all of the different snacks in each country. And honestly, the gas stations are so nice. I had the best quiche of my life at a French gas station. I had the best ratatouille of my life at a French gas station. I got to try so many different flavors of like chips and candy and like things like that. And it was just a really cool experience. Plus, I would always do my makeup on the bus and my hair, so I had like a ton of time to kind of get that done. And I also liked to sleep, because if you went out the night before and then you have a bus trip the next day, it's like perfect because you can sleep just the entire time. When it comes to transportation, Europe is very big on public transit. So a lot of the cities that you stay in have a really good public transportation system, whether it's buses, metros, a combination of both, trams, like you name it. And so in most cities, we would get either an unlimited metro pass or just a lot of tickets or like whatever it may be. I can really only think of one city where this didn't happen, and that was Athens, because it doesn't have like a super great public transportation system or one that we really needed to use. When it comes to things like taxis and Ubers, they're not like as common in Europe. Europe, you have to think, as a continent, has some like very, very old cities, and their infrastructure is just not as great for driving. And so it actually sometimes will take you a longer time to get a taxi or an Uber than it would to take public transit or just walk. You're going to be doing a ton of walking, so get ready. I will say it's not as common, but if you do want to get a taxi or an Uber, you're in a pinch. I've done this like really late at night when public transportation was closed. That's fine, but that's on your dime. All right, let's talk about the optional excursions that you can sign up with EF for this trip. I went ahead and I looked up what they're currently offering. It's actually less than what they offered when I went on my tour, and I'll get into that a little bit later. The first is the Sagrada Familia. This is in Barcelona. It is a huge cathedral. I've actually been there twice. I do think it should be a wonder of the world. I really do. I think that this is definitely worth it. I will never get over it. It is absolutely stunning on the outside and the inside, and I think that it is a must-see in Barcelona. Versailles, I thought, was really cool. I mean, you are seeing the palace of Louis the 14th and where Marie Antoinette lived. We had a guided tour of Versailles with our local guide. It was absolutely amazing. We had time to explore the gardens, we had time to grab lunch, and then we had a guided tour inside the palace. I thought that it was really cool, and I definitely think that it is worth it when you are in Paris. I personally did not do the London Eye and Tea, only because I've already done the London Eye, and I think it's a cool experience to do once, but I definitely don't need to do it again. If you don't care about the London Eye, there are tons of places to get a great view of London that are free or cheap. My favorite way to do it is to climb all 500 plus steps to the top of St. Paul's and get an excellent view of the city. You can also book a tea river cruise or many different teas in the city if you're concerned about that experience. I will say the people who did go on this actually really enjoyed it. When it comes to the Dutch countryside bike tour, you will never find me doing anything with a ton of physical exertion on an EF trip unless my friends peer pressure me to. So no to bike tours, no to kayaking tours, because I just don't want to spend my vacation exercising. I will say I highly considered this one. I was signed up on it and then I dropped it. I just didn't think that there was enough free time in Amsterdam, and I didn't want to give up my free time to go do this. I will say the people who did do it, again, had glowing reviews. They really loved it, so it's really up to you. The Dachau Memorial Site when you are in Munich is an absolute must. I feel like it was just so eye-opening because it is just like a really heavy topic, but we were there for a long time, which meant that we didn't have a lot of free time in Munich. However, I just felt like it was a really necessary experience, and it really did change my life. And so I highly recommend it. The Swiss Alps adventure was so fun. You go to the top of, at least on my trip, it was Mount Titlis. And when you go up there, it's literally like a little theme park and you can go tubing. So there were a lot of fun things to do up there, but if for nothing else, the views when you take the gondola up were absolutely breathtaking. And honestly, I could have taken that gondola up and then come right back down, and I think it would have been worth my money. You get to come back down whenever you want. So if you're worried about free time, just know you can spend as much or as little time up there, but I definitely think that it's worth going. I'm actually booked on a trip to Switzerland this summer, and I'm doing that exact excursion again because I loved it so much. Now, for those of you who have been on an EF Ultimate Break trip before, you know that your tour director will offer you some optional excursions for when you're on the trip. Basically, you have to pay for these excursions in local currency, in cash. So I'm just preparing you now. I don't remember exactly how much each of these were, and I don't remember every single optional that was offered to us. I will say a lot of the optionals either A, have a minimum to run, so you need to have a certain amount of people in your group interested, and if you don't have them, then it is not going to run. Or B, there has to be availability. So some things were offered to us, and then our tour director was like, oops, there's not availability. So it will vary from trip to trip and from tour director to tour director, but most of the optionals are the same. Here are the ones that we actually did do that were my favorite. The first was in Barcelona, a day trip to the medieval beach town of Sitges, which is about 45 minutes to an hour train ride outside of Barcelona. This day was so much fun. We shopped, we ate, we laid by the beach and had drinks. We went into the ocean. It was definitely warm enough to do that. It was awesome. It was one of my favorite days of the whole trip. We also did a paella dinner on Barceloneta Beach, where we got our choice of different kinds of paella. We got a drink, we got a dessert, and then our tour director took us to a discoteca where we got free shots, and then we were given entry into a nightclub, and we ended up staying out till 3 in the morning. You definitely don't have to do the clubbing part, but it was just like a ton of fun. We did a cabaret show at Paradis Latin in Paris. I think that this was absolutely amazing. I was told it was better than the Moulin Rouge. I don't know because I have never seen a show at the Moulin Rouge, but it was really, really fun. It came with some options. You could either do dinner or you could just do champagne. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the show. In London for my 27th birthday, we did a pub crawl. It was super cheap. We went to like 4 different pubs and a club, and then you get a welcome shot usually at each like pub, and then there's usually drink specials, and it was like really fun, and I love a good pub crawl. I love a good pub crawl. We did a sunset canal cruise in Amsterdam. This was a lot of fun. You get like cheese and fruit and wine, and they take you all throughout the Amsterdam canals, and we were just singing and dancing on this boat and having the best time. They even had soda and water for the people who weren't drinking. Like, it was so much fun, and I had a great time. In Prague, we did a medieval dinner, and this was a lot of fun. It reminded me of Game of Thrones, and we had unlimited like beer and wine the entire time that we were there, and just like this huge meal, and it was all by candlelight, and there were like dancers and fire, and it was a lot of fun. In Venice, we were given the option for a gondola ride through the canals with a real gondolier, and this was a lot of fun. By the way, they don't actually sing, which is super disappointing. In Athens, you are given the option to go to Cape Sunio, which is outside of Athens. You get a guided tour of the Temple of Poseidon, which was way less crowded than the Acropolis, and there's actually a little bar there. So that was fun. And then you go to this little beach bar where you can go in the water, and they have these fun signature drinks and some food options, and that was just a lot of fun and a great way to escape the city. In Paros, we went on this boat, and it takes you all over the island of Paros and Antiparos, and then there are 3 places they stopped at for us to go swimming. You could jump off the boat. They had a slide where you could like slide off the boat, and then they even took us cliff jumping, and then they docked us. They made us a barbecue with like pork souvlaki and chicken skewers and all things Greek Mediterranean, like really good food. We had wine. They gave us an Aperol spritz, and then we watched the sunset. It was so much fun. It was a great way to just like swim in the ocean, have a good time. And then we sung karaoke the entire way back. It was so much fun. This was my favorite part of the trip, hands down. The best excursion EF offers. Those were like the official extra excursions that our tour director offered, but he was always like saying like, hey, I'm going to dinner here. I'm putting together this dinner if you want to go. We did an Indian dinner in London. We did a fondue dinner in Switzerland. He took us to Camden Market. He was just always like organizing things that weren't like official or where everyone had to like pay to go, but just like, hey, I'm going here, you can come with, like, hey, I'm going to this museum, who wants to go, that sort of thing. And always giving like suggestions of what to do in our free time. Okay, so when it comes to your free time, I honestly didn't do a lot of research, but if you're not wanting to do a lot of research about what to do in your free time, please let it be known that if you want to go to any of these places, you need to get tickets beforehand. The Louvre in Paris, that's gonna get crazy really fast. The Anne Frank House in Amsterdam, those tickets become available 6 weeks before. Set an alarm on your phone and buy extras because people in your group will buy tickets off of you, I promise. The Harry Potter studio in London, that sells out months in advance. The Academy to see the statue of David in Florence, you'll want to buy, you don't have to buy super far in advance. I was able to snag a last minute ticket, but you might want to buy that in advance. And the Vatican. This used to be an EF optional excursion. It was not anymore, but I would say definitely book that ahead, and you're probably going to want to do a guided tour if that's something that you're interested in. I recommend the morning. So my favorite things to do in my free time that were not organized by EF, I am a museum girly through and through, so I liked going to art museums, history museums, just cool different museums that they have in different cities. So definitely look up some museums if that's what you're interested in the places that you're going. I always like to do local events or things that I can do at home but in different cities. So that would be things like games, concerts, going to the movies. I actually snagged last minute Harry Styles tickets for like 30 euros in Paris. Some people went to a Barcelona FC game. Like, there are always things going on, and you could go to a movie, you could go to a play, you could go to a comedy show, whatever that may be. London is known for its plays and comedies and things like that. So definitely look up local events just during the days that you're going to be there. Another fun thing to do is cooking classes. I took a pasta making class in Rome. That was a lot of fun with my friend. Some people did like gelato making classes. Some people did a paella cooking class, like whatever you think. There are tons of different options. Definitely going on day trips. So when you're in Florence or Rome, it can be super easy to go to Cinque Terre or Positano or something like that. People took day trips to Oxford from London. Like, there are all of these other cities that if you're gonna have enough time, you might be able to go to them, whether it's booking it through a company or just going on your own. Some people went to Pisa. Like, there are lots of different options. I highly recommend for your free time, look into Viator or get your guide and see if there's anything that you can book in your free time in the cities that you're gonna be visiting. Okay, a lot of people ask me about laundry. Yes, it is possible to do laundry. Almost every hostel or hotel that you're staying at will have laundry services, whether that's you doing laundry on your own or them doing it for you. I will say my best hack is to find a laundromat nearby that will wash, dry, fold, and press your clothes for you, even if you have to pay a little bit more for it, because it takes you forever to do your laundry. You will be waiting for a machine. If you are not right there when your laundry's done, someone will take it out. You don't want that. So I like to just go to a laundromat, drop off my clothes, pick them up later. It saves you a ton of time and money and just a little bit of research, and you'll be able to find one nearby. Usually this is a really common thing, actually, I've noticed throughout Europe. When it comes to money and budgeting, for starters, I did not take out money until I got to Europe. As long as you are using an ATM that is attached to a bank, you can withdraw euros from pretty much anywhere. I will say you will want to decline the conversion that the bank is offering you and accept your bank's own conversion because it's usually cheaper. And make sure that you avoid any ATMs that are not attached to a bank, especially ones that say Euronet. They will charge you an arm and a leg. I was just slowly taking out money as I go. Never leave money in your suitcase in your room unlocked. Never have too much money on you, okay? plan to budget around $80 to $100 a day. This is what EF suggests. No, you're not going to spend $80 to $100 every single day, but some days you'll spend more and some days you'll spend less on like things like food, meals, souvenirs, excursions, things like that. So just plan $80 to $100 a day. I actually spent about that much despite the fact that I did not buy souvenirs because I wasn't really limiting myself when it came to meals, drinking, like doing the things that I wanted to do. But I'm really not a big souvenir girly. So just, you know yourself, budget anywhere from $80 to $100 a day and you should be good. A lot of places in Europe do take card, so don't worry about having cash, like a ton of cash on you at all times. They are really good about taking Apple Pay in a lot of different places as well. Just make sure that you have some coins on you for using public restrooms, tipping local guides, and just to have in case you need. I like to withdraw money and then split a big bill into some coins as soon as I can, basically, so that I have money for tips, bathrooms, etc. All right, so let's talk about the activity level. So Europeans walk a lot more than we do. Their cities are really walkable and they're also not super car friendly. Things aren't as spaced out, so it's very doable. You will be walking on average about 10,000 steps a day at least. I would walk anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 steps, which usually ended up being anywhere from 5 to 10 miles a day for me. I definitely am not used to walking this much, so about a month before my trip, I just started walking a ton at the gym, around my neighborhood, whatever. I will say, like, I was totally fine the whole trip, but just get used to it. You're going to be doing a lot of walking, and by the end of it, if you're not already super fit, you're going to be. So I hope you're ready. Don't let that scare you from going on the trip because it's totally doable. Just make sure that you're prepared for it. So let's get into my tips, tricks, things that I wish I would have known before I took this trip. Number one, buy extra tickets, add extra people to your reservations, because there will always be someone that wants to join you. There will always be someone that's willing to buy that ticket off of you, especially for things like Anne Frank, things that they can't get tickets to themselves. So if you can afford it, buy a second or third ticket because you're going to make friends on your trip and they're going to be so happy that you made extra room on your reservation or bought an extra ticket so that they can go with you. The second thing, I've already mentioned this, but always check out local events so that you can kind of see if there's anything going on that you can be a part of. The third thing is to make sure that you've got entertainment, whether that's downloaded shows, books, movies, things like that, because you're going to be spending a lot of time traveling and it just goes by easier if you've got something to do. For your phone, I would just make sure that it's on low data mode to save battery and that your brightness is turned down. I think that putting your phone on low data mode helps save the battery better than low power mode. My phone gets super glitchy on low power mode, so change your phone to low data mode and you will find that you have a lot better of a time saving battery. Speaking of, when it comes to your phone, look into different options with your phone provider or into getting an eSIM. There are many different options out there that you can research. I have not paid off my phone, so I went with my phone provider who charges me $10 a day for unlimited international talk, text, and data with AT&T. However, I will say they do cap it after 10 days, so that was well worth it on this trip, in my opinion. When it comes to taking pictures, make sure that your phone for videos is in 4K on 60 FPS. I just set that to my default so I could get some really awesome videos while I was on my trip. Your friends will be there to take photos for you, but don't forget to take pictures of yourself and with your friends because those are the things that you're going to look back on this trip. Well, I hope that helps you. If you would like me to do another video on recommendations of free time things to do in each city, if you have any other questions about Ultimate Europe, please do not hesitate to reach out to me on my socials at mcat63 on Instagram, or you can comment below and I would be happy to help you. Also, just a reminder that if it is your first EF Ultimate Break trip, I would love it if you use that link to book. It helps me and it helps you save money on your trip. Let me know if you have any more questions. I'll see you later.